On 29th Feb 2020, a woman finds a Russell's viper in her bedroom. She screams for help and the husband rushes in and throws the snake out. Just 2 days later, the same snake makes its way back into her bedroom and bites her at 1 a.m. in the night while she's sleeping. Luckily, the woman survives but had to spend 52 days in the hospital. A few days after her release from the hospital, this time a spectacled cobra finds its way to her room and she's bitten once again. She's rushed to a hospital the next morning, but this time she's pronounced dead on arrival. This is a rarest of rare case from Kerala, India, where live snakes were used as accessories to murder. I am Pawan and welcome to my channel Macabre India. But first, a quick introduction to our primary characters before we get into this riveting tale of true crime. Hailing from Anchal in Kollam district of the southern state of Kerala, the victim was Uthra. She was 25 years old and having grown up with a learning disability, she had trouble learning new things, and it was this condition that made her parents give a hefty dowry for her marriage. On March 26, 2018, she got married to Sooraj Kumar, who hailed from Adur in the same district. It was an arranged marriage. Sooraj's was a low-income family, whereas Uthra's family was quite wealthy. Uthra's family informed Sooraj's family before the marriage about Uthra's disability. The dowry included 768 grams of gold, a sedan car and 4 lakh rupees in cash. After a while, when Sooraj complained about the monthly expenses for Uthra's medicines, her parents even gave an allowance of 8,000 rupees per month. However, the couple's marital bliss lasted all of 3 months before domestic disputes became a regular occurrence. Despite their marital troubles, they had a child in 2019 who was just a year old when he lost his mother. In January 2020, the couple had a major domestic dispute in their residence in Adur. Uthra's father and a relative fetched her and took her to her parents' house in Anchal. Sooraj went to Anchal on the pretext of reconciling with his wife. The ruse worked and Uthra returned home to Adur. On the night of 2nd March, when Uthra was asleep in her marital home in Adur, a Russell's viper bit her on the leg. You remember how I mentioned hospitalization in the beginning. She woke up screaming in agony and 3 hours later she was in a hospital. Uthra suffered from swelling and hemorrhage and needed to be hospitalized for 52 days and had plastic surgery done on her leg. Luckily, she was still alive and well despite this harrowing experience. She went straight to her parents' house when she was discharged from the hospital on 22nd April 2020. A few days later, Sooraj followed her there to care for her. Just 2 weeks later, on the morning of 7th May, Uthra's mother, Mani Megalai, was concerned when her daughter had not woken up at her usual time. She found her daughter unconscious and her left hand dangling by the side of the bed. But this time, she was not as lucky and was pronounced dead on arrival. The doctors examined her and she had died from snake bites. 2 snake bites, not 1. At that point, her death was registered as an accidental one. Snake bites are, after all, common in Kerala, and in India, every year on an average an astounding 60,000 people die from snake bites. In the subsequent days, during Uthra's final ceremonies, Sooraj's family was strangely aloof. They seemed uninterested and showed no emotions at all about Uthra's untimely death. Vijay Senan, Uthra's father, found this strange since they seemed to be in a hurry to just get it over with. When he and his wife discussed this strange behavior, she mentioned that she had seen Sooraj lurking outside Uthra's room the morning that she found Uthra unresponsive. When she had asked Sooraj why he did not check on Uthra, he had casually mentioned that he thought she was sleeping in late. It was not in his nature to wake up so early, and at that point, Mani Megalai had not thought much about it. But now it seemed suspicious. Also, the couple could not help but wonder how a snake got into that room, which was tightly sealed. A snake expert visited Uthra's parents' house and confirmed the couple's suspicion about foul play. We shall have a look at that room in a couple of minutes. Besides, it was also common knowledge for the family that Sooraj had some experience in handling snakes. Given all these facts and the almost impossible coincidence of getting bitten by 2 venomous species while inside a house sleeping. Vijay Senan's suspicion was strong enough to go to the Anchal police station on May 14th, 2020, a week after Uthra's death, and ask for an investigation. He narrated to the cops all that I have explained just now, and this began the excellent investigative work done by the Kerala police. First, they scouted the room where Uthra was bitten on that fatal night. Like I said before, the room was sealed tight to keep the heat out in the air-conditioned room. It had 2 single beds, one by the window, where there is also an AC unit above, and the other by the wall opposite, where Uthra would have her final sleep. They quickly deduced it was highly improbable that even if by some fluke a snake did come to the windows, it would skip the bed by the windows where Sooraj had slept and go to the other bed and bite Uthra. Additionally, there was barely a centimeter space below the door through which a snake could not have entered. The window was also not a possibility since it was 62 centimeters from the ground and the cobra standing could have only reached a maximum height of 150 centimeters. Besides, the windows were closed since the AC was running. And of course, there was no way it could have gotten in through the AC outlet, which was high up in the wall. In the meantime, Sooraj panicked and went into hiding. On 23rd May, the police tracked him down and arrested him. In this footage, he is seen crying when the police nabbed him. At this point, the police had no hard evidence against him as there were no witnesses or footages to incriminate him, and he knew that. He claimed he had been falsely accused by Uthra's family due to a property dispute and also to get custody of the child. He also said that he was not good with snakes. In fact, that he was afraid of them and would never go near one. The cops knew that without evidence their case would not stand in a court of law. They got busy. They formed a team of top cops, veterinarians, environmentalists, herpetologists and snake catchers, a total of 79 people. The police exhumed the carcass of the snake, which had been beaten to death by Uthra's brother on 7th May and buried in their backyard. They got a post-mortem done on the snake and confirmed that it was indeed that snake which had bitten and killed Uthra. They also obtained Sooraj's call records and found he had been in touch with a local snake dealer named Suresh. Of course, selling snakes is illegal in India, but something being illegal does not mean it does not happen. The police brought Suresh in for questioning and later arrested him. The team recreated the scene of the crime, as strange as that sounds. To the great inconvenience of another cobra, they got into a room with a dummy representative of Uthra. They tied a piece of chicken to the dummy's hand and detached the hand and provoked the cobra. They provoked it in different ways and the snake only bit after giving out many warnings. They attached the hand with the chicken piece still tied to it and let the snake loose on the dummy and later flung it on the dummy, but as expected, the snake did not bite. The snake would simply slither away and hide in a dark spot. This was proof that cobras do not attack a still object on their own. They also went on to do a bite test. When a cobra bites on its own, the bite size between the fangs is about 1.7 centimeters. When it is forced to bite, the size is between 2.3 to 2.8 centimeters. The bite marks on Uthra's hands were 2.5 and 2.8 centimeters respectively. This proved that the snake was made to bite Uthra rather than bite on its own. Additionally, the experts also pointed out that the bites happened late in the night, whereas cobras are generally active between 5:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. in the evening. These findings and testimonies built a strong case against Sooraj. The team also investigated the details of the first bite from the Russell's viper on March 2nd that put Uthra in the hospital. There were many red flags. Number 1. Vipers do not bite dead animals, or in this case, people who are sleeping. To prove this, they also did a dummy test with the viper. They tied a dead rat to the leg of the dummy and as expected, the viper did not bite. Then they put a live rat on the dummy and when the rat moved, the viper struck. Number 2. The house was in a marshy area which the snakes do not like. Number 3. How does a snake slither its way up one floor of smooth tiles and railing, especially when vipers are not known to climb things. Number 4. Even if a viper suddenly decided to experiment tree climbing, it's not that there were any branches or trees right in the vicinity of the house. Point number 5. When the bite mark by the viper was examined after her death, the bite was found to be high on her leg, whereas normally a bite would be around the ankle area. The police also found that Sooraj had taken a life insurance in Uthra's name just weeks before the first bite. This made the case against Sooraj stronger. The walls had closed in on Sooraj, and on July 12, 2020, 65 days after his wife's death and 50 days after his arrest, he finally confessed to killing Uthra. During his detailed confession, the gaps in the crime and what had happened before were unraveled. Let's again go back to that fateful domestic dispute in January 2020. When Uthra had been taken back to her paternal home. It was then that Sooraj decided to eliminate his wife once and for all. He researched on venomous snakes and taught himself further how to handle snakes. Through his research on Facebook, he found a local snake dealer named Suresh. Suresh sold a Russell's viper to Sooraj for 10,000 rupees. This brings us to murder attempt number 1. Sooraj kept the snake in a plastic container under a heap of firewood in the shed. On February 29th, 2020, he placed the snake in their bedroom upstairs. He told his wife that he had left his cell phone in that room and asked her to fetch it. Sooraj's plan had failed since the snake did not just attack her as he thought it would. To keep up appearances, he pretended he was going to release the snake and took it outside with him. But back in the box it went instead. Attempt number 2, as you may very well know by now, was on March 2nd, 2020, just 3 days later. Sooraj figured that if Uthra was awake, his plan most likely would not work. He gave her a pudding laced with sedatives. When she was asleep in the first floor of their house, he forced the snake to bite on her leg, as the bite tests would reveal later. As mentioned before, he took 3 hours to get her the medical help she needed. But despite his intentional delay, Uthra survived that attack. Maybe if Sooraj had just given up on the snake modus operandi altogether at this point, he might have gotten away with this one. Instead, he redoubled his efforts. He claimed that his wife was under the influence of Sarpadosha, which according to Hindu beliefs is dictated by your birth charts, where your life is at a heightened threat from snakes. He decided to go for a more venomous snake this time and again procured from Suresh the spectacle cobra, which cost him 7,000 rupees. He probably got a discount for being a loyal customer. In it went to the same plastic box as before, and the plastic box went into a plastic bag. And off they went to Anchal on May 6th, 2020. At this point, Uthra had just been discharged from the hospital and had been at her parents' house for the last couple of weeks. On the night of 6th May, Sooraj spiked the juice he gave to Uthra with sedatives again, and she passed out. Out came the cobra. Sooraj had starved the snake for 13 days in the hope that it would strike Uthra as soon as it was let out. First, he let it loose on her, but it simply slithered away. He caught it again and flung it on her. Again, the same result. Finally, he was forced to hold the snake by its hood and made it forcefully bite her. Twice. He was not taking any chances this time. He let the snake go and it settled in a dark corner. Sooraj washed the glass of juice that he gave to Uthra and threw away the stick with which he handled the snake, both of which could count as evidence against him. The police took both Sooraj and Suresh to Uthra's paternal house in Anchal, where Sooraj showed where he had hidden the snake. The plastic box was still there and the police seized it as evidence. Not surprisingly, they found his fingerprints on the box as well as the DNA of the snake which was used to kill Uthra. Suresh later turned from being an accused in the case to a prosecution witness and testified against Sooraj. Again, to reiterate, it was the excellent work of the Kerala police and their team that nailed him in court. Expert testimonies as well as the simulation footages of when cobras and vipers attack convinced the judge of Sooraj's guilt. He pronounced this as a rarest of rare case. Usually, the punishment for a crime under that category is death. But Sooraj was sentenced to 17 years imprisonment plus 2 consecutive life sentences and an additional penalty of 5 lakh rupees. It also emerged that Sooraj's father had cleared the gold received as dowry from the bank locker on March 2nd and buried it in the family's rubber plantation. He was also sentenced to prison for tampering with evidence and harassment. Sooraj's mother and sister were also booked for domestic violence and dowry harassment. If you're still here, thank you for watching this video. If you like the video, please hit that like button. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe to my channel and I'll see you next time. Until then, bye.